All right. Welcome back to another session. Starting with our presenter. How do you pronounce your name? Jeremy?
Jamie,
Jamie.
like Jamie Vardy.
Okay.
You know, Jamie Vardy, Leicester City, in the Championship. Jamie.
So we continue with our topic, our self-talk. This particular time, our presenter, Jeremy, is talking about working at height, perception of risk. I know we are having a snack, so instead of giving me a hand, I'll just hand over to the presenter. Over to you.
Right, good afternoon, everybody. I always get the last slot, I do, and everybody's getting tired and wants to go home. So, what I'm going to talk about today is not about working at height particularly, but it's more about the perception of risk. Because I think we're getting it wrong. Wow, it's a statement. I think we're getting working at height and working at height wrong because we've got the wrong perception of risk. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about some of the statistics, a little bit about some of the historical things that's happened, and some of the changes that are being made in industry. And I think you'll hopefully find that quite useful, that we're changing attitudes towards working at height, we're changing process towards working at height, and it's based on the perception of risk rather than how high it is. It doesn't matter how high it is. And we're going to look at that in a lot of detail. So it's not a presentation about working at height, the whole subject. You guys already know about working at height. You already know about harnesses. You already know about fall prevention plans and all those sort of things. It's more about the hearts and minds and changing our approach, because I believe that some of our approach is wrong. And I'm going to just put this into play. The problem we have is we perceive that the higher it is, the more dangerous it is. You look at this picture here. Do you know what this picture is? Do you know what this is? Look at this picture carefully. Huh? It's very high. It's definitely very high, yes. So first of all, it's very high. Do you know what building this is? Look carefully. Let me give you a clue. King Kong. King Kong. It's the Empire State Building in New York. And until the towers, etc., it's one of the biggest buildings you can have. And this is actually 120 stories high. And this is the top of the building. Okay? So this platform down here, but it looks a long way away, is actually the top of the building. And then after the top of the building, there's a huge radio mast that broadcasts everything across the whole of New York. And that's the bit from the original King Kong, you know, when King Kong's climbing up the building and he's got the girl in his hand and he's swiping at planes like that. That's what he was climbing up. He was climbing up this mast, this radio mast. So these two guys on here are on the top of the top of the top of the building. What's their biggest risk? What's their biggest risk? So, falling. So, what do you think their biggest risk is? Madam? Falling. Okay, so let's drift and fall. Good. In modern times, no one has ever fallen from this building doing that job. The perception of risk is that's where the danger is. The truth of the matter is, these guys, their biggest risk is testicular cancer from EMF. What's EMF? Electromagnetic field. These radio masks all around us give off an electromagnetic field, and long exposure to a male can make us male sterile. So actually, the biggest risk to these people is sterilization, not falling from height. But we all think it is because it's high. Am I right?
Yes.
So we think, our bodies, our minds think like this. But the truth of the matter, if we look at this picture here, there's two pictures. The one on the left is a group of window cleaners abseiling down the side of a building to clean that building. On the right is another window cleaner. Which one of these is more likely to have an accident? Wendy? The guy, the idiot, you might say, on the right. It's rare that these people have incidents because they've got harnesses, they've got proper systems, everything's checked, everything's inspected. Because if they make one wrong move, they're gone. So, the trouble is that this fool here stood on a chair in the front of his shop, in the doorway, is much more likely to have an accident. And the problem with having an accident at this height is you usually survive. And surviving falling from height can be a life of misery. It can shatter your life. We need to start to rethink how we approach working at height. If you fall from height, you are likely to have a serious injury. Fact. Most people that die from working at height fall less than 2 meters. Wow! Wow! The most people that die from falling at height fall less than 2 meters. And you may have noticed I'm quite a tall guy. I'm 194. So falls from just above here to the floor are the biggest contributors to death in the world. Why? Because everybody does it. Nobody thinks about it. You go on the side of the building, you guys are on construction sites, you've got harnesses, you've got lines, you've got lanyards, it's all there. But hey, changing the light bulb on here, what could possibly go wrong? I want to show this video. This video is a typical incident of what I'm talking about. It's late afternoon, it's in a shopping mall, these two guys, the Castle Milk Stout is calling them. They want to get away, they've just got one quick job to do, and then they're gone. They've gone like the darkness at dawn. Watch the video. He's dead. He's dead. The guy has broke his back. He's dead. He's not going home to his family tonight. He's fallen just over 2 meters, but he's fallen badly. The ground below was not protected properly. Now, another day we'll talk about the legalities. Another one of these sessions, I can play this again, we'll talk about legalities of what this means now, method statements, safety method statements, risk assessments, all that sort of stuff. But today, the essence of the perception of risk is they didn't think what they were doing was wrong because it's not very high. And the truth of the matter is 80% of all deaths, 80% of all deaths from working at height are falls from under 2 meters. We need to rethink, we need to regather our efforts, and change the way we think. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, you guys are safety people, you know what you're talking about. There are some key principles, guys. There are some key principles to working at height. Now, I come from, for you guys that know me, I come from a highly regulated background. Most of my consultants work in oil and gas, and things like ladders were banned 20 years ago. You just can't use a ladder. You're not allowed to use a ladder. You've got to use some form of safe working platform. But we look out in industry every day, and we're still heavily using ladders, step ladders, podium steps, and all that sort of thing. So there's some key principles that I want you to take away today. First of all, we must consider working at height is work at any elevation. Working at height is work at any elevation. An elevation is going up and it's going down. We forget about the going down bit. Do you know what in confined space entry? Confined space entry, the biggest killer in confined space entry is? What do you think it might be? Lack of oxygen. No, it's not. What do you think? Explosions. No, it's not. It's falling down the hole. The biggest killer in working at height are people falling into the tank, falling into the drain, falling into the sewer, falling into the excavation. Not the explosion and the lack of oxygen and all that. It's falling in the goddamn hole. That's working at height. Working at height is any elevation, up or down. Okay? So now that opens up a huge problem for us because I know your construction sites. I do inspections all over Africa every day. And we've got harnesses and lines and things like that going on and all this other stuff. And then you go to an excavation and it's wide open. Am I right? We don't perceive that as working at height because it's going down into a hole. Oh, it's an excavation, dangerous excavation, really good. It's working at height. More people fall down excavations than actually get trapped in them, etc., etc. Where there's elevation, irrespective of how much elevation, where there is elevation, there is risk. Please make a mental note of that. It does not matter whether it's half a meter, a meter. I actually did a fatality in Sweden once for an oil company, and the guy fell off the step ladder less than half a meter. But he fell back and banged the back of his head on a sharp part of a shelf in retail, they killed him. Half a metre. So we don't necessarily have to be at height to have a problem. Okay. We must have a risk assessment for all working at height activities. Not when it gets to 2 meters, not when we get onto a scaffold. We have to have a risk assessment if the elevation is this far off the ground, because we already say once there is elevation, there is risk. If there's risk, we need to do a risk assessment and control it, do we not? We have to put a risk assessment in place, so all working at height activities, even under 2 meters, folks, must be risk assessed. Your risk assessment should be in 3 stages. Does anybody know what those 3 stages are? When we risk assess working at height, what are the 3 stages that we should take into consideration? Number 1, try and avoid it altogether. We, as a human species, are really rubbish at this. As soon as we are asked to do something different to what we know, we say a 4-letter word, can't. Don't go onto the roof. Oh, we can't do it that way. We can't do it any other way. We've always done it that way. That's not true. Engineering controls are starting to change. I've been speaking, I go to work at a petrol station, I've been speaking to a company in a moment. You know, when we build petrol stations in Zambia, we have a steel structure, so we put some stanchions up. And then we have people working at height for about 6 weeks building the petrol station, right? In India, they've just come up with a new canopy that is built on the ground. It's got all the bits in it, it's got all the LCD lights, it's got all the solar panels and everything. And they bring it, they put the stanchions in, they power out the stanchions, okay? And they come along with the canopy, 2 cranes, and go. Not one person has to work off the ground. So these things can be done, but it requires designers, it requires architects to get involved in that process. And they're very poor at doing that. So, avoidance number 1. What's number 2? Prevent. Okay? Now, this is where you guys, no disrespect to anybody, this is where we start to get it wrong. We misunderstand, we confuse prevention with reduction. What do I mean by that? We misunderstand the difference between prevention and reduction. When we talk about a fall prevention plan, if we cannot avoid working at height, and we do have to accept that we are going to work at height, you safety people should be going to the ends of the earth to prevent a fall. Prevent a fall. Not reduce the impact of it. Reducing the impact of it, minimizing it, is the last resort with that PPE. Wearing a harness to stop you hitting the floor like a margarita pizza should be your last line of defense. I'm not going to say this in front of all the ladies in here, but gentlemen, when we've finished here today, if you would like to just Google testicular injuries through incorrect fitting harnesses, that I suggest you don't do it before you're eating spaghetti and meatballs. It can get a bit messy. Do you know what I mean? Is that on camera? So, fall trauma, all those sort of things are really the last resort, guys. We need to aim and work towards stopping people from being able to fall. And we're not very good at that, are we? Generally speaking, we're not very good at it. A fall protection plan must be submitted, and it needs to include evidence that you have gone to the end of the earth to try and first of all avoid doing it in the first place. And secondly, if you can't do that, to be able to try and prevent the person from being able to fall. All working at height must be pre-planned and must include protection of the ground below. Because after falls, falling people and falling objects onto someone else working below is the next biggest issue. Everybody knows that, yeah? Good. Any questions? Any questions on this so far? We also need to work on the right sort of selection of work equipment as well. So, the question for me today, the question for you when you are assessing the risk of working at height, keep it simple, guys. Can I fall? If the answer is no, then you have protected the worker. If the answer is maybe towards yes, then we need to try and turn that to no. And it doesn't matter what height it is, because we've already established that most people that die fall less than 2 meters. And we forget about that. We forget about those people that are on chairs, on step ladders, changing lights, doing cabling, mechanical and electrical work, finishing trades, tiling, painters, decorators. We forget about all those people. They keep falling off where they're working and hurting themselves. We ought to go. We should be wearing harness. We've got to stop them from falling. This is what we used to, and this is where we need to be. The person on the right, can they fall? Yes. The person on the left, can they fall? No. It's just a step ladder with a guardrail platform. It's a modified step ladder. How's about that? This guy can stand there on his own. He's not got people holding the ladder all day and all that sort of stuff. He can stand there all day, 8 hours doing his job, 2 points of contact, without the fear of falling. Am I right? Yes. This equipment is available. When did you last see this on site? Anybody here on site using equipment like this? We're not thinking about it. Because the perception is there isn't any risk. And hopefully, believe me today, 80% of all deaths from working at height are under 2 meters. It's where the majority of risk is. These are just other examples of the equipment that's out there. These are called podium steps. Look at that. This guy steps up. He's doing some demolition work. He's got 2 steps up. He's got a cage like that. Can he fall? No, he's protected. The guy on the right, who always to me looks like he's having a wee. But the guy, can he fall? So these are called podium steps. They're not mini scaffolding. You just fold up. You take them off to the next job. Some of them have got wheels on, like this one, you can move them around, so it's mechanical, electrical work, ceilings, all that stuff, you just wheel it around all day. It actually reduces the risk of falling and reduces the amount of resource you've got having somebody holding a ladder all day. The other guy can be doing something else. Ask yourself, when you're doing your risk assessment, ask yourself, can he fall? And if the answer is yes, what can we do to try and change it to no? Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
This is another one in action. It's just I'm showing you these as. So I'm not doing lines and access platforms and everything and all that. I'm just talking about this area of risk that we overlook because the perception is there is no risk. But hopefully today you've learned actually that's not true. It's the other way around. Most of the risk is in these because most of the jobs are like this anyway. There are systems out there. Look at that. So it's a bad picture. There are systems out there now that are available and they don't cost a lot of money. And what you can end up doing is stop tiptoeing, having everybody on a harness and the line. You don't need people to be wearing harnesses if you've got that. Am I right? You've eliminated the risk of falling. This is movable. It ties in like that. You put it on a job and put it on another job. You can have it for 20 years. We just need to think about it. We need to get away from tradition. We need to protect falls into excavations. We need to protect falls into excavations. People fall all the time. The excavations collapse, so this one's shored up, beautiful. You've got people working on the inside of there. Remember, you've got to protect the ground below as well. What about this for a system? Has anybody seen this? Has anybody used something like this on site? It's beautiful. You buy it, if you're a construction firm and you're doing this sort of work, you buy it and it'll last 20 years. You have changed. Can I fall from yes to no in a blink of an eye? And we can all go home at night knowing that we've done the best we can as safety officers. I know it's not up to you to buy this equipment, I'm just saying what is available. Even walkway systems. So if you've got maintenance, you know, if you've got things happening on ceilings, on top of shopping malls, you can actually put, these are all interlocking, they're almost like they're expensive. Look at this one. One of the biggest incidents we have in maintenance is air conditioning, HVAC, people, yes, right, people falling off the top of these conditioners while they're doing, look at that system in there. Can you fall? Beautiful. Some retailers, like, I don't pick and pay, don't like these things sticking up. You can even get them that they lock into place. So if you've got workers up there, you go, while the workers up there, you've seen them on the tankers, like Total and Engine, you've seen them on the tankers. It's a system that goes up when they're up there, and then when they're finished, it comes back down. I'm not saying you should do this, I'm just saying there are systems out there, we just need to start thinking differently. Once that's in place, it has mitigated the risk of a technician falling from that roof. Would everybody agree? Okay? Otherwise, for the next 20 years, every time that person goes up there to fix that thing, he's got to have a lanyard, he's got to have a line, he's got to have a harness, he's got to have the full shebang. And he's got to have you watching him. That's mitigated the risk of a fall, and it's a permanent structure on the building. Beautiful. Is that useful? I'm going to play you a video now. I'm going to play you a video. This video is about 7 minutes long, and I'm going to ask you to really watch it. I'm going to ask you to really concentrate on it. And I'm going to ask you to put yourself in their position. Working at height shatters, working at height incident shatters people's lives. Please, I mean, we all know this, you're all safety officers. I'm going to say, for most working at height incidents, you're better off being dead. Because surviving it can be a long, tortuous life. Let me put you this video. This is from one of our courses. It's 7 minutes long. This is actually from the IOSH course. Sorry. Sorry, guys, sorry. You just dropped that down. Sorry. Amateur. See, George didn't make any mistake. This is our job. This is not a game that we're in. To Mark's point earlier on, if you come into this, it's not just playing lip service to get money. I'm in this because I care. Some people die on my watch, and some people never survive. If you're in this for the long haul, embrace it and be beautiful. Be beautiful. Be beautiful. Thank you.
We can do better than that. Well done. When I saw the title, and now comparing with the content, I think I misjudged the title. I thought we would come here to learn about looking at height and all those details, but I'm sure you can see that the angle that it took is indeed unique. So thank you so much, Jenny. At this particular time, we have now some questions. We started a little bit late, so we have at least given 10 to 15 minutes for our questions, and we call it a day. So any questions on any of the presentations? We have had the 3 presentations: manual handling, careers for safety professionals, and working at high-end perception of risk. So any questions or contributions? And we'll go offline for the questions.